Hi folks, welcome to the Prepared Homestead. This is Travis. Thank you all for stopping by to watch. I want to address a couple of things today in the video. All of it has to do with what's going on in the disaster areas, the flooded areas, the areas that were destroyed in the Carolinas, Tennessee, Georgia, Florida, those areas, and again, how we need to be preparing ourselves because of what we're learning. Remember, I told you before this even hit, you need to be paying attention to this so that you can learn, watch and learn. There's been a lot of information, a ton of information online coming out about these areas, what's going on, how things are happening, the tragedies, the good and bad and the ugly. And I suspect that there's a lot of truth in it, but like with many things, now that we have social media, internet, 24/7, wall to wall, that there's probably a lot of things that aren't true that's been come out. We're all conditioned to not believe the mainstream media, but we also have to understand that we can't necessarily always believe every little individual that posts something online too. If you go back over the last few years, there's all kinds of things that's happened that come to find out a lot of the information that was being spread around wasn't true. So I want to make it clear with that. A lot of people are talking about, let's start with this. I made some phone calls because of some contacts that I have in our state emergency management office, and got some information from them. I'm not telling you that everything they told me is absolutely true, but it's people that I know fairly well, and I think that they're telling me the truth. And I went through official means with the position that I have as a volunteer to try to get some information. And what they're telling me is that one of the problems that they're having, not the obvious of the disaster from the flooding and everything, but that they're being overwhelmed with help. They're overwhelmed with just stuff. They're just overwhelmed over there in those areas. And so some of the speculation and some of the rumors that we're hearing could potentially be due to some of that. They're saying that they're getting, maybe in one particular area, they're getting a ton of people show up wanting to help, and it's a headache trying to just coordinate that. You have to understand that most of these areas, I would guess, because they're similar to areas where we live, is there, the fire department and the local emergency management and stuff like that a lot of them are volunteers, or they're part-time. They're not full-time, as highly trained as maybe big cities and stuff, and so they're trying to deal with a massive national disaster with very little resources. I can only imagine how it would be if something like that happened here. Yes, we take our jobs as volunteers very seriously, but we're very limited in our resources and our equipment and our training. So it's very different. So you have to understand there's that going on, and they're saying that they're getting just an immense amount of people flooding in volunteering. A lot of nonprofit organizations. He was saying that you wouldn't believe how many people just randomly show up. They just show up in their pickup truck and they're from such and such place and they want to help. And that's not a bad thing, but it's overwhelming. They're trying to figure out, what people can do, what they're capable of, where to put them. And so that it's this big administrative nightmare, so that they're not, throwing people all over the place where there's damage, storm damage and stuff, where they could become injured and have even more of an emergency. He said, as far as the food, he said, I addressed it with him, hey, we're hearing online a lot of people saying that stuff's being confiscated by FEMA. He said, I can't confirm or deny everything. He says, but what I do know is that there are some areas that were affected by the storms, but yet are still accessible. Meaning there may be a town where, flooding came through and it's bad, but yet there are roads still coming in and out of that town. He said, versus there are areas that there are no roads whatsoever. There's no way to get in and out of unless it's by, some type of off-road vehicle. He said, and think about it. You've got semi-trailer trucks of water and food and stuff coming in. They can't make it to those. They can't physically drive their vehicles to those areas that have the most severe damage. So there's starting to be this buildup of supplies in towns that have damage but are still accessible. He said, so what they're trying to do is redistribute some of that stuff to the areas that have the worst damage. Now, I am not on here saying all this kind of stuff to make excuses for FEMA, certainly for FEMA, or for anything else. I'm sure that there are probably some nefarious things going on. I'm sure that FEMA is just a lying bag of doo-doo, because that's pretty much what they are. I've worked with them many times in the past, and I don't have a high opinion of them. But understand that there are really good people on the ground. There's always those stories of the bad apples, of like the fire chief that's trying to arrest some guy trying to rescue people. I'm not going to make excuses for that. The guy's probably just a jerk. Who knows? But there are definitely good people, and he was telling me, how much amazing help that's come in. I mean, can they use more? Usually they can. But he said right now there's just this massive incident command management problem of trying to manage all of this help, all of these people, all of this supplies, of just trying to figure out. He said, and it's overwhelming. I've listened to folks like Glenn Beck. He had a guy on there the other day that's on the ground, and he was telling similar types of stories of that, in his experience there so far, it's gone. The help, the outpouring of help has been absolutely amazing, and that people are really coming together. In fact, the guy that he was interviewing said that, and he's a pastor himself, he said that for the first time in his life, or for the most that he's ever seen, where he can actually say, I have seen the Spirit of Yeshua, the Spirit of Christ, so profound there. So there are amazing things being done, along with the awful, awful tragedies. And so remember that. Now, the real reason why I'm bringing this up is because, again, we need to be learning from this. If you can help over there in any way, certainly do. We have we have a couple of people from our ERT that's going to be making their way over there, and so we're working on putting together some medical equipment, some EMTs within our group that's going to be going over there. So we're trying to put together some stuff for them to get over there. But if you're able to help in any way, certainly do so. But also remember that things like that can happen where you're at, and you need to be taking note of what's going on, the response, the reaction, the response from government, from the local to the federal level, the reaction and response from people, and see a pretty fairly clear picture of how things could be in your area, regardless of whether it's a natural disaster or something else. There's so many things happening that, my goodness, what are the possibilities of something quite severe happening in your area? I would guess that 2 weeks ago, most of the people in North Carolina would have said, this is such a calm, peaceful place. It's what it was known for, those beautiful mountains and little towns. It's bad things like that don't happen to us here, and yet now they have. And people are scrambling, people are hurting, people have lost their lives, their homes, their businesses, everything they own. And the world that we live in today, disasters and tragedies like that are more often. They happen more. And you could say it's because of this globalist plan, or it's following what the Bible tells us, or it's just a coincidence. I don't know. You can make up your own mind on what you think. But the thing is that these kinds of things are happening, and the odds of them happening are greater and greater. When we take in all of the things going on, we've got two major solar flares, an X7 and an X9, coming in at us, like starting today and tomorrow. Who knows what could happen with that? And I'm not talking about necessarily knocking the grid out. It's unlikely that they're powerful enough for that, but they could cause earthquakes. I know that that's not 100% proven, but there's too much evidence there for me to think otherwise. There's all sorts of things that could happen. There's weird stuff going on with the New Madrid fault line right now. There was showing the other day, I was looking at these migratory bird patterns of birds flying south. For some reason this year, over the last several days, as they're flying south, they're completely avoiding the New Madrid area, the New Madrid fault line area. Why? I mean, that's just crazy. There's been some unusual cloud formations over the New Madrid fault line area in the last week or two. Is there something going on there? Is that the next big disaster? I'm not making anything, more than what just asking questions. Maybe there's nothing to it. The point that I'm making is that we have to be ready. And so when I'm on here constantly telling you to get your houses in order, this is the kind of stuff I'm talking about. How would your area be able to respond to this kind of stuff? What kind of stuff that you have, your training, your equipment, your tribe to respond to this? How would it look? Would it look similar? Would it look better? Would it look worse? And how ready are you to handle a situation like this? Even if it's not the same kind of situation, something at least on this magnitude. We have to start realizing that the world we live in is vastly different than where we grew up. And you families out there, you mags, you tribes, whatever, you need to be putting a lot of effort right now into making sure that your food is where it needs to be, your food production, your water, your medical supplies, your training, all of that. And if you're really concerned with what's going on in your area in regards to disasters like this, maybe join your local fire department. Most of you probably live in areas where there are volunteer fire departments. Go and join one. Become a first responder. Get some more medical training. And not just the medical training, but get some actual experience where you're actually going out there, going on calls and helping people. And so that's experience, because you can train out of a book all you want, but going out there and actually doing it on a regular basis is something very different. We have to realize and wake up that we don't live in the same world anymore, folks. There's wars everywhere. There's disasters always just around every corner, it seems. We've got leadership that is completely inept. We have it's all around us, and we have to wake up to that. So when you're paying attention and watching what's going on, that's the really rough spot of the road. When you're paying attention and watching what's going on, when you're doing what you can to help, when you're praying, when you're sending money, when you're maybe you're going out there to volunteer, whatever it is, we need to also be paying attention and just learning and starting to think, okay, if that happened here, if that situation that's going on, as you're watching some video, if that's the situation, if that was to happen to me, what would we do? How would we respond to that? How would I react to that? Because these things are going on, and the odds of some type of disaster or tragedy or major event affecting you and your family are increasing. So you need to be getting ready. Folks, it's time to get your houses in order and to prepare yourselves mentally, physically, and spiritually. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you in the next video.